Recently, we asked you if you could ask Uber's CEO a question, what would it be? You had some great questions. We tried passing along to Uber, and Uber gave us a response. Let's go over it now. Hey everyone, my name is Chris, and welcome to the RideShare Guy. So we're going to go over what the questions were, what Uber's response was, and then my reaction to it after. Now, Uber did provide some big responses when it came to a couple of questions, so I am going to put them up on screen. I am going to go over and give them the quick highlights, but if you want to read through it, you can just pause, see their entire response in full, and especially when it deals with the safety measures that Uber has rolled out. If you don't know about those, it's definitely going to be great to see all the different ones. So let's get right into it. So the first question that you asked, which we were able to get a response from Uber, is what steps is Uber taking to address concerns around driver safety, particularly in light of reports of harassment and assault by riders? So as you see on the screen, Uber had a big response. Now I'm going to read some of the highlights of this response, but if you want to read it word for word, then just hit pause on the video. So the response is, Uber is deeply committed to the safety of drivers and couriers on the Uber app. Drivers can cancel a trip at any time for safety reasons. We've developed a number of safety features in the app over the past several years, and that included audio recording, video recording, the emergency button, 911 integration in 1-800 jurisdictions, live help from a safety agent, ride check, follow my ride feature, 24/7 phone support. They also rolled out a new rider verification feature across the US that provides an extra layer of verification for users who are using anonymous forms of payment, such as prepaid cards, gift cards, or Venmo. They're also going to be updating rider names. So in 2022, they conducted a large audit of rider account names, freezing accounts with names that are clearly fake. These accounts will remain blocked until riders update or validate their account names with our support agents. Drivers can flag any fake or inappropriate names they encounter. Drivers can go into their app's help section, find the option to report an issue with a rider, and select my rider had an inappropriate name. Uber's support team will then be able to take appropriate action to block those accounts until the names are updated. They've also come up with the Driver Safety Awareness Center, and they have the Public Safety and Global Investigations team, which is a public safety liaison team, public safety response team, and the Uber Public Safety Portal, a 24/7 website where public officials can quickly and securely request trip data and other information critical to investigations, emergencies, and other public health and safety issues. For specific data requests, public safety officials are asked to provide an overview of the investigation and to upload the required legal process documents. So we follow international, national, and local laws to maintain customer and driver data privacy. They also work with law enforcement agencies to develop safety information and tips for drivers, where they regularly send out these safety tips to drivers. And the messaging also exists in the driver app. Uber has a global investigations team that is made up of high-level investigators coming from the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. And the team is led by Vince Lisi, a former special agent in charge of the Boston FBI. And Uber is committed to constantly updating and strengthening our processes to protect against criminal activity. And during an emergency, law enforcement can submit an emergency request through the alert portal. Uber has processes in place to respond to emergency requests on a 24/7 basis, and those requests are processed immediately. So as you can see, Uber does have a lot of safety measures in place for both drivers and riders for before the ride begins and also during the ride. But one of the biggest things that you need to know is in the event that, let's say you're a driver, you're driving, you have a passenger in your car, and they decide to go off the deep end, a lot of these safety measures are not going to happen. In fact, it's actually going to be very hard for Uber to be able to do anything in the event that you have a passenger who decides to go off the deep end. Now, this is where it becomes on you as the driver. And when seconds count, this is where you need to be very vigilant of what's going on in your car. You need to be vigilant of who's getting in your car, and you need to take the appropriate actions so you feel safe or are able to take care of a situation in the event, the rider goes off into the deep end. Now, this could be something like learning common strategies to help ease tensions, especially if certain tensions are too high to begin with, trying to de-escalate situations. That's going to be something that you can learn as a driver. Another thing that you can do when it comes to safety is knowing who's getting in your car, paying attention to that, and denying a ride if you feel unsafe. Don't even start the ride in the event where you feel safe. You saw Uber put that in their first line. You have the ability to cancel the ride at any time. And if you feel unsafe getting the ride at the pickup point, don't pick them up. And then in the event that de-escalation doesn't work or something else, you might have to resort to self-defense. And so learning self-defense from classes, car self-defense that is specific to the confines of the car, and then just knowing what you have to do in the event so you build that muscle memory. So sometimes just grab your car keys, grab your phone, and get out of the car as quick as possible so you can be out of that situation altogether. The other thing is always being alert and aware of your surroundings. So when you're driving, if something's unfolding in your car, look for the closest gas station, look for the closest parking lot that you can get into and get help in the event something's happening. Now, one more thing though that I want to say when it comes to this is there was an article that recently came out when it came to Uber not responding to law enforcement's requests on investigations, and it was being held up by Uber. Now, this is something where Uber could communicate better with law enforcement agencies on a local and a state basis, just basically making law enforcement agencies aware of the ability of the alert platform, and then also making sure that the alert platform is being conducted where Uber is providing that information immediately, accurately, and to the best of their abilities so that they are not holding up any information on the event that there was a safety emergency and law enforcement had to get involved. And this is where I want to open up to you. What are your thoughts? Comment below and let us know. All right, let's move on to the second question, and that is, how is Uber working to improve the driver experience, such as though better compensation and benefits or improved support services? And Uber's response is, we've spent the last couple of years refocusing our efforts to innovate for drivers to further our goal of making Uber the best platform for flexible work in the world. While consumers tend to interact with their Uber app for a few minutes several times a week, drivers are often interacting with the driver app for several hours a day. We know that every bad experience is that much more painful, and every bug we fix, experience we improve, or feature we launch is that much more meaningful. We've recently launched some new products and features to help drivers on and off the road, and we've partnered with unions across the country to ensure drivers get more benefits and protections. For example, in Washington State, we partnered on legislation that gives drivers a minimum earnings guarantee, injury protection, and paid family medical leave, among other protections. Last year, Uber and UFCW Canada committed to jointly press for government reforms that introduce industry-wide benefits and protections while protecting worker flexibility. In California, we worked hard to pass Prop 22 that enshrines into law a minimum earnings requirement for drivers and ensures they keep their flexibility to work when and where they want. We continue to look for more ways to partner with third parties to benefit drivers. We're also working hard to make our platform better. We recently announced Upfront Fares, a new trip request screen that makes it easier for drivers to decide if a trip is worth their time and effort by providing all the details, including exactly how much they'll earn and where they're going up front. We know drivers want more support and help paying for gas. We partnered with MasterCard Branch and Marqeta on a new Uber Pro debit card and checking account that will help drivers save on gas, fees, and more. Drivers can get up to 10% cash back on gas with Diamond status. In November, we reintroduced the Uber Pro program to better recognize and reward drivers with Diamond status in a way that's unprecedented in our industry, with an annual cash reward. Depending on drivers' Uber Pro status, they'll also get new experimental benefits like area preferences that let you choose the areas where you pick up and drop off riders, in addition to discounts on drinks and snacks from 7-Eleven and an annual Gold Star membership from Costco for new members. We know there's more work to do, and we're committed to making the experience better. Now, I think I can speak for most drivers that in this question, they just want to see more pay. Basically, everything has gone up. Inflation is through the roof. Things cost more. Gas is higher, and it's actually gone down, but it's going back up again. And drivers just want to get paid and compensated accordingly, so they don't have to work more in order to bring home the same pay. They want to work the same and bring home enough that's going to reflect being able to pay for the inflationary costs and also be able to have some extra at the end of the day where they can go out and have some fun. Now, yes, there are laws on the books, and then you could look at the state of Washington, which is probably the gold standard, in my opinion, when it comes to drivers, protections, pay, and all of the above. When it comes down to it, cities like Chicago, Minnesota, other areas that are introducing legislation and laws, Uber and other companies are trying to fight that legislation. So there's definitely a disconnect because they say in this response that they want to work with legislators, but then they're fighting against it. So there is definitely a disconnect there. And then my question is, why would you have to wait for legislation to pass in order to have a law put on the books? Why can't you just take something like the gold standard of Washington and then bring that to the rest of the country? And then that way, when legislators are looking, you have the gold standard and you can work with legislators and say, hey, look, this is what we did in Washington. This is what the law is. Why don't we look at that? And then that way you're at the forefront, you're at the beginning, and you can still protect drivers' flexibility by keeping them flexible instead of employees where there could be a schedule. And then they're still getting treated fairly with proper protections and also compensation. All right, let's look at the third question, and that is, what measures is Uber taking to reduce its environmental impact, such as through the promotion of electric or hybrid vehicles? Again, this is one of Uber's very long responses, so I am just going to pull a couple of highlights from this. And if you want to read this in full, just pause the video and then we'll continue on. So their response is, Uber is committed to become a zero emissions mobility platform in the US, Canada, and Europe by 2030 and globally by 2040 because it's the right thing to do for our drivers, riders, and the cities we serve. Uber is leading the industry when it comes to going green and making progress towards our ambitious zero emission goals. So for drivers, Uber is the only company to commit $800 million in resources to help drivers go electric by 2025. And about the $800 million in resources allocated to help drivers go electric, they have the VC ZEV incentive in the US, which is the $1 per trip ZEV incentive to drivers of battery electric vehicles for every trip they complete, up to 4,000 annually. They have the EV cost calculator guide on Uber, which is going to help any driver in the US understand the financial trade-off by switching from their current vehicle to an EV, including any specific government and utility incentives they could be eligible for. The EV purchase and rental discounts, which is partnered with TrueCar to provide drivers who purchase a vehicle through their perks up to $2,000, like auto repair, auto deductible reimbursement, and more. Drivers in select markets can also rent or lease EVs at preferred rates with Hertz, Avis, Ford, Drive Sally, Hive, ZV, and Hire Car. They have charging discounts as well. And also they have new features in the driver app support drivers who go electric, which is the EV hub, the charging map, and more, as well as some of the stats that they have about how the EV versus gas powered is. And then going on, they're also talking about their Hertz Tesla rental partnership, also the data on that progress, and where drivers can rent a Tesla via Hertz today in 30 plus US and Canadian cities. On the consumer side, they have that many consumers will get their first EV experience on Uber, and that they also offer more green and car-free ride options, which is Uber Green and Comfort Electric. And then the transparency of that, say they're the only global ride-sharing company to measure emissions from every trip and publicly report on carbon intensity. And then they've launched a monthly emissions tracker for 200,000 plus corporate Uber for Business customers so they can better manage their own transportation footprints, and released their annual ESG reports for investors in each of the last 2 years covering GHG emissions from all corporate account scopes. And Uber has already met its goal of matching all of our US corporate electricity consumption with renewable energy by 2025, 2 years ahead of schedule. All right, in all honesty though, hey, if you want to go electric, great. If you don't, that's going to be a personal choice up to the driver. The thing is, if you want to sway drivers to choose electric, you got to show them the money. And that's going to be incentives to get them to do that. Whether it's the $1 per ride, whether it's a percentage off of the cost of the car, whatever it might be, I think it has to go a little above and beyond. With that being said, you got to give good incentives, showing them the money, the true money, in order to make that switch and make that decision a little bit easier to go electric versus gas. And then lastly, one of the things that I would say is there should be some sort of guarantee, at least for the foreseeable future, that you will have those incentives in place. So if a driver decides to get an EV based on the Uber platform and driving for Uber, there's some sort of guarantee that is going to help them, like that $1 emissions up to $4,000 annually. How long is that going to go? Is that going to go for the 800 million and then dry up? Or are you going to continue that for, let's say, the first 3 years of a car or the first 5 years of a car or every time they buy a car? How is that going to look? There should definitely be some sort of guarantee for drivers to be able to make that switch and then have that in the back of their mind knowing, okay, this is going to help me. And again, what are your thoughts? Make sure you put them in the comments below. All right, let's go on to the next question. And that is, how is Uber working to address concerns around the gig economy and the lack of job security for its drivers? Uber's response is, as described above, we're committed to working with third parties, drivers, and unions to push for government reforms to benefit drivers. This includes minimum earnings guarantees, new benefits, deactivation appeals, and more. While we're proud of the partnerships we've forged in the US and around the world, we recognize that there's more work to be done. All right, so right here, again, if you recognize that there's more work to be done, do it. All right, let's go on to the next question, and that is, what innovations can we expect to see from Uber in the coming years, and how is the company working to stay ahead of the competition? Uber's response is, we are committed to making Uber the best platform in the world for flexible work, and that means building features that they can only find on Uber. A critical part of that is constant feedback from drivers. Uber Crew is one way we get constant feedback on our new products. Building new ways to keep drivers safe, investing in ways to make it cheaper and easier to get in electric vehicles, and give them control over their earnings are areas we're particularly focused on. Well, it would have been nice to see, some of the things that they may be working on, but I guess in time, we'll be able to figure out what new options they have when it comes to innovation. I think their biggest thing is that they are going to continue trying to innovate and trying to go into the future. They definitely have a lot in their app and they're poising to do more. So it just seems that they are preparing for the future in terms of how their app is going to be and where their focus is going to generally lie for both the consumer end and the driver side. Let's go on to the next question, and that is being an Uber driver worth it? Uber's response, driving with Uber is a unique way to earn money and may not work for everyone. However, for those who want true independence, turn the app on and off at a moment's notice in order to prioritize family, another job, or school. Uber offers drivers second-by-second flexibility and control that you can't find in any other industry. We're proud of how we're able to support people who are using Uber as a way to pay a last-minute bill, get through school, or work around auditions. All right, so my response is I have a video coming out very soon here on the RideShare Guy that is going to answer that exact question. Is driving Uber still worth it in 2023? So make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss that video. It will be out in a few weeks, so don't miss that one. All right, and the last question that Uber responded to is, will Uber ever take cash? Uber's response is, we'll continue to listen to drivers and value their feedback. In the US, there is an extremely high rate of credit card and debit card usage. Payment in-app is secure and efficient. It helps drivers seamlessly move from drop-off to their next pickup. While cash payments aren't currently accepted in the US, we will continue getting feedback from drivers on this topic. So all in all, they say no, cash is not going to be something that they're looking at when it comes to it. They may look at it in the future. Now, we did talk about this on Show Me the Money Club recently when it looked like they may be testing cash in certain areas and see how that may go. We also put out polls on our YouTube community tab here on the RideShare Guy that said, hey, would you want to take cash as a form of payment? The overwhelming majority did say no because they didn't feel it was safe. They didn't want to get robbed or anything like that. While some people did say yes, that they would take cash, I think the consensus overall on the driver community is that they don't want to take cash rides and they don't want to have cash on hand or anything or open themselves up to the possibility of being robbed. So with that being said, I don't think cash is going to come in the near future, but we want to know what your thoughts are. So make sure you put them in the comments below. And what other questions would you want to see Uber respond to? Maybe we can get some responses from them from your questions. So put them in the comments below. And as I just said, a new video is going to be coming soon. Is Uber driving still worth it in 2023? So for my response, again, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Don't miss our Show Me the Money Club live show, our Money Hungry live show, and all of our great, amazing other content regarding the gig economy, not just rideshare, but food delivery, last mile delivery as well. Now, we did have some great responses from Instacart and also Doordash, so I'm gonna put them right here. You can click those, check them out, and see what they had to say. And drive smart, everybody.